The year was 2279. Humanity had crossed the silent oceans of space, planting colonies on distant worlds and sending research fleets beyond the edge of known maps. Ships bearing the blue and white crest of the United Terran Council moved between stars with quiet confidence. After centuries of struggle on Earth, people had learned to build together, to share knowledge, and to travel faster than light using the new quantum jump drives. Many believed the galaxy was open and waiting. They were only half right. Captain Elias Mercer stood at the forward deck of the research cruiser Argent Dawn, watching the strange light of an unfamiliar system flicker across the viewing screens. The crew had spent 3 weeks mapping the pale ringed planet that circled a small orange star. Data packets streamed into the ship's memory banks. Atmosphere readings, mineral scans, and signals from deep under the planet's icy crust. All of it suggested potential for life. For Mercer, who had spent his career searching for signs of other civilizations, it was the perfect mission. But something about the silence unsettled him. No comm traffic, no beacons, and yet this place feels watched, he said softly. Lieutenant Ria Chen, his science officer, glanced up from her console. Sensors show nothing unusual, Captain. No ships, no artificial satellites. Maybe just nerves? Mercer smiled faintly. Maybe. But history teaches us that empty skies can hide sharp teeth. The crew laughed quietly, but the unease lingered. They had heard rumors from explorers in nearby sectors, stories of shadowy fleets and colonies that went dark without explanation. Officially, the Council dismissed them as space legends. Unofficially, captains like Mercer paid attention. 2 days later, while the Argent Dawn continued its surveys, the first warning arrived. It came not as a signal, but as a sudden distortion on the edge of the system. Space itself seemed to twist. Alarms flared. Gravitic surge detected, called the helmsman. Something is jumping in, large signature. Mercer straightened. Red alert. All stations report. Outside the viewports, reality shimmered. Then 6 massive warships emerged from quantum slipspace. They were unlike anything in human records. Sleek, dark, and sharp-edged, with hulls that glowed faintly like cooling metal. Symbols of a jagged star burned across their flanks. Their sudden presence made the Argent Dawn look like a child's toy. A harsh transmission cut through the static, translated by the ship's linguistics AI. Unidentified vessels. You trespass in sovereign territory of the Vor Dominion. Power down engines and prepare to be boarded. Compliance ensures your survival. The bridge fell silent. Even the air seemed to tighten. Vor Dominion. The name meant nothing to anyone present. Yet the tone carried centuries of practiced authority. Lieutenant Chen whispered, "They're not asking, Captain." Mercer drew a slow breath. "No, they are not." He tapped the comm panel. "Open a channel." The translator shaped his calm words into the Vor's harsh language. "This is Captain Elias Mercer of the United Terran Council exploration ship Argent Dawn. We are on a peaceful research mission. We claim no territory. We will not power down. We request open dialogue." A pause followed, long enough for the crew to exchange uneasy glances. Then the Vor voice returned, colder than before. "Dialogue is irrelevant. Withdraw from Dominion space or face elimination." The Vor ships shifted formation, their weapons charging with a dull red glow. The threat was unmistakable. Mercer kept his voice steady. "We do not recognize your claim. We will defend our right to free passage." The Vor captain responded with a hiss of static and cut the channel. Admiral Lena Park, commanding the small escort frigate Resolute nearby, came through the secure link at once. "Elias, we're outgunned. They have battleships. We have science cruisers and a handful of defense drones. If they open fire, they expect us to run," Mercer said quietly. "That's their first mistake." He turned to his crew. "Prepare evasive maneuvers, but hold position. Power shields. Broadcast our statement of peaceful intent on all frequencies." The bridge officers moved with disciplined speed. Fear was there, yes, but it sharpened rather than froze them. Humanity had faced long odds before. On Earth, in the first colonization wars, in the dark vacuum where a single mistake meant death. This was different only in scale. The Vor warships advanced slowly like predators savoring their prey. Bright crimson energy pulsed along their weapon arrays. The crew of the Argent Dawn could almost feel the weight of ancient arrogance pressing against their hull. Mercer studied the tactical display. He knew their technology might be superior. He also knew something the Vor did not. Humans were not a scattered group of frightened primitives. Behind this small fleet stood a united species that had learned to survive every challenge the universe had thrown at them. "Transmit a message to the United Terran Council," he ordered. "Include full sensor data and the VOR demands. Then lock our jump drive on standby. If they fire, we return fire long enough to break their formation, then jump." Lieutenant Chen hesitated. "Captain, that could be interpreted as an act of war." Mercer met her gaze. "They already declared war when they threatened us. We simply refused to surrender." Outside, the VOR fleet halted. A new signal came through, more complex, layered with subtle distortions. The translator struggled for several seconds before delivering the message. "Final warning. Leave this system or be destroyed. No species may expand beyond its station. The Dominion endures. Others obey." Mercer's jaw tightened. "Reply with this. Humanity does not obey fear." The words echoed across the bridge as they were transmitted. Simple, clear, unmistakable. For a long heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the VOR ship slowly began to withdraw. Their weapons dimmed, but their posture remained threatening. One by one, they slipped back into the shimmering corridors of quantum space, vanishing as suddenly as they had arrived. Relief swept through the crew, mixed with new questions. Why withdraw when they held overwhelming strength? Was it caution, or the beginning of something larger? Admiral Park's face appeared again on the comm screen. "They're gone for now. But this is only the opening move. We need reinforcements, diplomatic contact, everything." Mercer nodded. "Send the warnings. Tell the Council we've met the VOR Dominion, and they do not believe in peaceful borders." As the Argent Dawn resumed silent orbit, the crew looked out at the endless stars with new understanding. They were not alone. They were not even safe. But they were also not afraid. In the quiet of the captain's cabin later, Mercer recorded his log. His voice was steady, but his eyes held the fire of conviction. "First contact with the VOR Dominion has been made. They demand obedience. We will not give it. If they seek to test humanity's resolve, they will learn what countless challenges have already taught us. We may be young among the stars, but we will not bow. Let this record stand as proof. The age of human fear is over." He closed the log and stared at the starfield outside. Somewhere beyond those points of light, an ancient empire had taken notice. Somewhere, plans were already forming to teach the upstart species a lesson. But humanity had endured ice ages, wars, and the cold emptiness of space. Whatever came next, Captain Elias Mercer knew one thing with absolute certainty. The VOR Dominion had just made a dangerous mistake. The warning from the Argent Dawn traveled across light years in a matter of hours, riding the secure quantum channels that linked human colonies. Every relay station repeated the same urgent message. "First contact with the VOR Dominion. Hostile intent confirmed. Human vessels ordered to surrender. We refused." On Earth, the United Terran Council called an emergency session in the Grand Chamber of Geneva Orbital. Representatives from every colony world appeared as shimmering holograms around the circular hall. The air buzzed with anxious voices as reports scrolled across massive screens. Some delegates looked frightened. Others looked angry. At the center of the chamber, High Chairwoman Amira Sol struck her gavel. "Order," she said firmly. "We will hear the details before debate begins." The main display lit with the recording from Captain Mercer's ship. The VOR transmission played in a harsh metallic language, followed by the translator's cold words. "Withdraw or be destroyed. No species may expand beyond its station." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even those hardened by years of frontier politics felt the weight of an empire that spoke with such effortless dominance. Admiral Lena Park, still aboard the escort frigate Resolute, appeared on the central feed. Her voice carried the calm authority of a veteran. "The VOR fleet possessed weapons far beyond our standard models. Their ships are heavily shielded. Yet they chose not to fire after Captain Mercer refused their demands. We believe they are testing us, measuring our resolve." Chairwoman Sol leaned forward. "Admiral, can we defend our colonies if this VOR Dominion attacks in force?" Park did not hesitate. "Not with current deployments. Our fleets are strong, but we lack experience against an opponent of this scale. We need to unify command, upgrade defenses, and most importantly, send a message that humanity will not be divided." The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. Some representatives called for immediate fortification of border worlds. Others argued for diplomacy to avoid war. A few warned against provoking an enemy whose history and full strength remained unknown. Far away, in the quiet observation lounge of the Argent Dawn, Captain Elias Mercer watched the Council's debate through a secure feed. Lieutenant Ria Chen stood beside him, arms folded. "They argue while the Vor prepare," Chen said softly. "They must argue," Mercer replied. "Unity means every voice is heard. That is our strength," Chen tilted her head. "And our weakness if we delay too long." Mercer gave a faint smile. "Perhaps. But the Vor expect fear. They do not understand choice." While humanity debated, other ears listened. Across the Vor Dominion, the Argent Dawn's transmission spread in secret. Smugglers, traitors, and hidden rebel networks carried fragments of the human message into places the Vor rulers believed silent. To species long crushed under Dominion rule, those words, "humanity does not obey fear," were like sparks landing on dry grass. On the mineral world of Curaxis, a small group of miners gathered in a shadowed tunnel, listening to a stolen recording. Their leader, a four-armed being named Roveth, flexed his claws as the human voice declared freedom. "They speak as if the Vor are not gods," Roveth whispered. "They refuse to bow," another miner shivered. "The Vor will destroy them." "Or," Roveth said, eyes gleaming, "the humans will teach us how to fight." Similar whispers spread through other enslaved systems. The Vor High Council noticed the sudden unrest but dismissed it as minor agitation. After all, the Dominion had stood unchallenged for centuries. What could a young species accomplish? Back in human space, preparations began. The Council authorized the formation of Task Force Horizon, a coalition fleet drawn from every major colony. Admiral Park took supreme command, her reputation for bold strategy making her the natural choice. Starship yards in the Jupiter Belt accelerated production of new defense frigates. Engineers worked day and night to adapt quantum jump drives for rapid fleet maneuvers. On Mars, scientists tested an experimental weapon called the Graviton Lance, capable of piercing the heaviest shields. It was dangerous and unproven, but in the face of the Vor threat, risks were necessary. Meanwhile, human diplomats reached out to neighboring alien civilizations, small independent species who had remained cautious during humanity's rise. Ambassadors carried offers of trade, mutual defense, and shared technology. Many of these species had lived in quiet fear of the Vor for generations. Now they listened with growing hope. On the lush waterworld of Lithora, Ambassador Sanavel addressed a gathering of the Aquatic Terni Council. Her voice echoed across the crystal amphitheater. "Humanity seeks friends, not subjects. We will stand with any who value freedom. Together we can defend our worlds against tyranny." The Terni elder rippled his silver fins thoughtfully. "The Vor promised us safety long ago. They delivered chains instead. Perhaps it is time for a new promise." One by one, smaller civilizations began signing discreet agreements with the Terran Council. What began as a defensive alliance slowly became something larger. A network of species united not by fear, but by choice. Far from these hopeful meetings, the Vor High Council convened in their towering citadel of black stone on the capital world of Vorketh. 12 ancient rulers floated around a great circular chamber, their luminous eyes burning with cold intelligence. Holograms of human ships glowed before them. The eldest, known as Prime Strategist Zyril, spoke first. The humans spread their message faster than predicted. "Lesser species grow restless. We must act." Another counselor flicked his serrated crest in contempt. "A primitive species should not concern us. Crush their fleets, display their ruins. The others will fall silent." Cyril's voice remained measured. "Perhaps." Yet the humans did not retreat. Their message travels like a plague. "If we strike too quickly, we may unite the lesser races against us." The debate continued, mirroring the very council chambers of Earth, but with darker intent. In the end, the Vor decided on a middle path. A show of force would remind the galaxy of their power, without committing the full strength of their empire. Orders went out to assemble a strike fleet. Back on the Argent Dawn, Captain Mercer received the latest intelligence reports. 4 fleets were moving near the frontier worlds. He stood in the war room with Admiral Park, holographic stars reflecting in their eyes. "They're testing our borders," Park said. "Small incursions, enough to provoke fear, not full war." Mercer studied the glowing map. "They underestimate how quickly fear can become unity." Park gave a rare smile. "Then we make sure every world hears our message before their fleets arrive." Across the colonies, humans prepared. Families on distant mining stations drilled for emergency evacuations. Pilots trained for fast response maneuvers. Soldiers checked their new graviton weapons with quiet determination. There was fear, yes, but it sharpened resolve rather than breaking it. In a quiet corner of the Argent Dawn, Lieutenant Chen recorded a personal message to her family on Luna. "We stand on the edge of something vast," she said softly. "The Vor think they can frighten us. They do not know who we are. Whatever comes, remember this: we are not alone, and we are not weak." Her words, like countless others, joined the growing chorus of determination spreading across human space. Far beyond, in the hidden tunnels of Caraxes, Roveth and his fellow miners prepared their own quiet rebellion. They sharpened their tools, not for work, but for the day they might fight. The Vor Dominion had ruled for centuries, but now a new sound echoed in the darkness. A human voice carried by stolen signals, speaking of courage and choice. The sparks were spreading. And sparks, given enough time, could light a fire no empire could contain. The Vor Dominion moved at last. From the edge of the Aurora sector, long-range sensors reported heavy warship formations slipping through quantum lanes. Their destination was unmistakable: Aurora Prime, a thriving human colony world with 5 million residents and the largest shipyard outside the Sol system. The United Terran Council called it an act of intimidation. Admiral Lena Park called it the beginning of open war. Fleet Command wasted no time. Task Force Horizon, barely 6 weeks old, received emergency orders to defend Aurora Prime at all costs. Crews scrambled to their stations across dozens of star systems. Engines roared to life. Jump drives charged. Humanity would meet the Vor not with words, but with steel and courage. Shadows over Aurora. Aurora Prime was a jewel among frontier colonies. Its twin moons shone over blue-green seas and towering crystal forests. From orbit, the shipyard rings glittered like necklaces around the planet. To the Vor, it was both a prize and a warning, proof of human growth. To Admiral Park, it was home to countless families who trusted the fleet to protect them. As the Vor strike fleet emerged from quantum slipspace, alarms blared across the colony. Citizens hurried to shelters beneath the surface. Defense platforms powered up along the orbital rings, their cannons glowing as energy cores reached full charge. From the bridge of the flagship Resolute, Admiral Park studied the incoming formation. 4 warships stretched across the void in a deadly arc. 30 heavy cruisers supported by fast attack craft. Their hulls shimmered with black alloy that drank the starlight. "They came with overwhelming numbers," said Captain Elias Mercer, standing beside her. "They think this will be easy." Park's eyes narrowed. "Then we show them how wrong they are." Task Force Horizon deployed in a layered screen, agile frigates in front, heavy carriers behind, and stealth corvettes hidden in the shadow of Aurora's moons. Human engineers had worked night and day to outfit the fleet with experimental upgrades, enhanced shields, improved quantum jump drives, and prototype graviton lances capable of piercing Vor armor. Mercer keyed the fleet-wide channel. His voice carried calm strength. "This is Captain Mercer. Remember our mission. We protect Aurora. We protect each other. The Vor believe fear will win this battle. Let us teach them courage." The channel filled with short affirmations from captains across the task force. No speeches, no panic, just quiet determination. Fire in the void. The Vor opened the battle with brutal efficiency. Red beams of focused plasma streaked across the void, slamming into the outer defense platforms. Explosions flared like small suns. Entire stations vanished in seconds. The Vor advanced steadily, their formation precise and unbroken. Human frigates darted forward, unleashing volleys of graviton torpedoes. The experimental weapons struck with blue-white flashes, tearing holes in Vor shields. 2 enemy cruisers shuddered and spun away, trailing debris. Cheers erupted across the human comm channels, but Admiral Park remained focused. "Maintain distance," she ordered. "Draw them in. Make them chase." The front line obeyed, retreating in calculated arcs. 4 ships pursued, believing their enemy was faltering. That was their second mistake. Hidden behind Aurora's larger moon, a wing of stealth corvettes powered up their quantum jump drives. With a sudden ripple of space, they appeared behind the Vor fleet and launched concentrated strikes on supply carriers. Explosions blossomed in the enemy rear ranks, sowing confusion. Rear attack detected. Vor commanders barked in their own guttural language. Their formation wavered for the first time. Seizing the moment, Admiral Park gave the command. All ships, lance strike Alpha. From the Resolute and 2 heavy carriers, the Graviton lances fired in unison. Brilliant spears of compressed energy cut through space and tore into the lead Vor battleship. Its shields collapsed in a flare of light. The massive vessel cracked along its spine, venting molten metal into the void. The sight shook even the most disciplined Vor crews. For centuries, their fleets had dominated lesser species with near-invincible armor. Now, a young upstart species had pierced it with a single strike. Courage in the crossfire. Inside the bridge of the Vor flagship, strategist Karveth hissed commands to stabilize the line. Regroup. Eliminate the human carriers. Break their weapons before they fire again. Vor attack craft swarmed toward the Resolute, spitting crimson beams. Human escort fighters rose to intercept, weaving through deadly fire and daring maneuvers. Pilots from Mars, Europa, and distant colonies flew as one, their voices calm despite the chaos. Squad 2, cut left. Shield at 70%, hold the line. Protect the lance corps. Among them flew Lieutenant Dara Holt, a young pilot from the Titan colonies. Her fighter shuddered under repeated hits, alarm screaming, but she pressed on. Not today, she whispered, firing a burst that sent an enemy craft spiraling into the darkness. On the Argent Dawn, now retrofitted for combat, Captain Mercer coordinated sensor sweeps. He spotted a weak point forming in the Vor flank. Admiral, if we concentrate fire here, we can split their formation. Park's eyes sharpened. Do it. Human frigates pivoted, pouring fire into the targeted sector. Quantum jump maneuvers allowed them to vanish and reappear at unpredictable angles, striking supply lines before the Vor could react. It was a dance of precision and nerve, one the Vor had not anticipated. Slowly, impossibly, the invincible fleet began to fracture. The Vor retreat after hours of brutal combat. The Vor commander faced a choice his empire had not confronted in centuries: retreat or lose everything. Strategic reserves were gone. Supply carriers burned. Human ships, though battered, fought with relentless coordination. Karveth stared at the tactical display, luminous eyes narrowing. They are not supposed to fight like this, he muttered. They are too organized. Inade hesitated. Orders, strategist. Karveth's crest twitched in frustration. Withdraw. Signal the High Council. These humans are not as simple as we believed. One by one, Vor ships began to pull back, covering their escape with heavy fire. Human captains resisted the temptation to pursue recklessly. Admiral Park ordered a disciplined advance, maintaining pressure, but avoiding the traps of overextension. When the final Vor cruiser vanished into slipspace, a stunned silence filled the human fleet. Against impossible odds, Aurora Prime still stood. The Vor strike fleet was broken. Across comm channels, cheers erupted, some joyful, some disbelieving. Citizens in the shelters of Aurora Prime emerged to see the sky glitter with victorious human ships. Admiral Park allowed herself a single deep breath before addressing the fleet. Today we prove that courage and unity are stronger than fear. But this is only the beginning. The Vor will return and we will be ready. Ripples across the galaxy, the battle's impact spread faster than light. Hidden networks across the Vor dominion carried news of the human victory to oppressed worlds. Miners on Caraxis paused their work to listen to secret transmissions describing Vor cruisers burning in the void. Traders on distant moons whispered of a young species that had wounded the unstoppable empire. On the water world of Lithora, Ternai elders gathered to watch the battle recordings. Silver fins shimmered as they heard human pilots shouting encouragement to each other, even in the heat of combat. They fight as one, an elder said softly. They fight for each other, not for domination. In the Vor capital, the High Council received the strategist's report. Holograms of destroyed ships flickered across the dark chamber. Counselor Zyral's eyes glowed with cold calculation. These humans have pierced our armor, he said. They have inspired rebellion among our subjects. If we underestimate them again, the Dominion itself may tremble. For the first time in generations, silence fell over the mighty council. An empire built on fear had met a species that refused to fear, and the balance of power had shifted. Resolve back aboard the Resolute. Captain Mercer stood beside Admiral Park as the fleet orbited the battered but unbroken shipyards of Aurora Prime. Lights from the colony twinkled like stars below. They will come again. Mercer said quietly. Park nodded. And next time they will come in greater numbers. Mercer looked out at the endless night. Then we'll be ready. We have shown them what humans can do together. And the galaxy has seen it too. Somewhere in the depths of Vor space, new plans were forming. But across human worlds and among newly hopeful allies, a different kind of plan grew stronger. Unity, courage, and the belief that no empire, however ancient, could stand forever against a people who refused to bow. The turning point had arrived. Humanity had not only survived its first great test, it had lit a fire that would burn across the stars. The echoes of the Vor defeat at Aurora Prime traveled swiftly across the Dominion. In every conquered world, whispers of rebellion began to stir. Miners, laborers, traders, and scholars, all long oppressed, looked to the stars and wondered, could humanity truly challenge the might of the Dominion? For the first time in centuries, fear faltered. The Obsidian Guard. The Vor High Council decided decisive action was needed. They called upon their most feared enforcers. The Obsidian Guard, an elite fleet trained to crush rebellion before it could take root. Black ships shaped like jagged blades gathered in the shadow of the capital's orbital ring. Their hulls absorbed light, their weapons pulsed with deadly energy, and their pilots were bred for obedience, precision, and ruthlessness. Strategist Carveth, still smarting from Aurora Prime, addressed the assembled captains. "This will be a demonstration of power," he hissed. "We strike fear into the hearts of all who would dare defy the Dominion. The humans may have won a battle, but they will not survive a war." Yet even among the Obsidian Guard, doubt began to creep. The human tactics at Aurora Prime, unexpected, coordinated, and relentless, suggested a species unlike any they had faced before. Humanity prepares. Meanwhile, humanity did not wait. Admiral Lena Park convened a strategy session aboard the Resolute, joined by captains from all colonies. Holographic projections showed Vor worlds ripe for rebellion, supply lines vulnerable, and fleets stretched thin. "Every system under Vor control has unrest," Park explained. "If we can coordinate with these oppressed species, we can strike more than their fleets. We can weaken their empire from within." Captain Elias Mercer leaned forward. "We need intelligence. Maps of fleets, patrol schedules, political divisions. Anything we can use to help our allies strike decisively." Park nodded. "Agreed. And our diplomats are already reaching out to rebel leaders, offering technology, training, and coordination. Humanity will not fight alone." From the bridges of human starships to secret bases on fringe worlds, preparations were underway. Engineers tweaked weapons, pilots drilled evasive maneuvers, and soldiers studied alien technologies they had captured or reverse-engineered. The humans were learning fast, adapting faster, and preparing for the next wave. Rebellion awakens across the Dominion. Hope spread like wildfire. On Caraxis, Roveth and his fellow miners dug hidden tunnels not just for survival, but for defense. Secret weapons caches appeared beneath the mountains. Trained fighters moved silently among the population. They listened to broadcasts of human victories and took courage. "We are not alone," Roveth said to a group of miners gathered around a holographic feed. "The humans fight, and so shall we. The Dominion cannot hold forever." On Lithora, the Ternai crafted submarines armed with pulse cannons ready to strike orbital supply ships. Across dozens of worlds, small acts of defiance began to take root. Workers refusing orders, engineers sabotaging factories, and fleets of lightly armed ships harassing Dominion patrols. Humanity's open offer of alliance had become a beacon. Unlike the Dominion, humans did not demand obedience, they promised partnership. And that promise resonated more deeply than fear ever could. The first strikes, the Obsidian Guard moved swiftly. Their first target was a small industrial planet on the edge of the Dominion, a place long exploited for its rare minerals. The Guard descended in near-perfect formation, ready to obliterate resistance. But the humans and their allies were ready. A coalition of human ships and local fighters lay in ambush. Hidden behind asteroid fields, they struck with precision. Graviton torpedoes tore through the lead ships of the Guard, and human frigates appeared from unexpected angles, disrupting formations. The battle lasted hours, but when it ended, the Obsidian Guard had retreated, shocked by the ferocity and coordination of their opponent. News of this clash spread quickly. Wherever the Guard had once inspired terror, doubt now replaced fear. Shadows in the council inside the Vor High Council, debates grew heated. Councillor Zyril slammed his clawed hand against the table. "Our ships are unmatched. Our soldiers are trained for generations, yet the humans and their allies continue to resist. How is this possible? Another counselor, younger and more cautious, spoke. The humans unite. They fight together and share knowledge. Our subjects see that unity. That is why rebellion spreads. Cyril's eyes glowed brighter. Then we must strike harder. Strike faster. Show them the price of defiance. But even he knew the problem was deeper. The Dominion had relied on fear for centuries. Now for the first time, fear faltered. And without fear, control weakened. Strategy of hope back in human space. Admiral Park reviewed the intelligence gathered from allied species. Maps showed supply lines, patrol routes, and orbital defenses. Mercenaries from oppressed worlds offered information about the Dominion's weaknesses. Captain Mercer studied the projections carefully. We need to hit them where it hurts, but we must protect civilians. We cannot become the thing we fight against. Precision, intelligence, and courage, that is our weapon. Park nodded. Agreed, and every strike will also send a message: the Dominion is not invincible. Every planet we protect, every fleet we defeat, strengthens hope across the galaxy. A quiet celebration. For a brief moment, humanity paused to acknowledge progress. On Aurora Prime, citizens gathered to celebrate the day they had survived the Vor attack. Children waved flags as ships passed overhead. Engineers repaired the damaged defense platforms, and traders brought in supplies from nearby colonies. Captain Mercer and Admiral Park watched from the command center. Every victory counts, Mercer said. Not just in battle, but in courage, in hope, in the knowledge that we can change the future. Park smiled faintly. The galaxy sees us now, and they are watching closely. Rumblings of the Empire. Even as humans celebrated, the Vor Dominion was not idle. Reports of rebellion forced the High Council to commit more ships, more soldiers, more resources. Entire fleets were redirected from exploration and border patrols to suppress uprisings. Yet each action further revealed the weaknesses of an empire stretched too thin. Minor victories by humans and their allies became inspiration. Minor defeats by the Dominion became evidence of vulnerability. Everywhere, the shadow of an ancient empire began to crack. The choice of the Dominion. Deep within the Dominion's capital, Counselor Zero convened a private meeting with his closest advisors. The humans are dangerous not just for their ships or weapons, he said. They are dangerous for what they inspire. Fear has failed us. Obedience will fail. If we cannot strike decisively, the empire itself may fracture. A younger strategist spoke cautiously. Perhaps negotiation is wise. Allow them small victories, contain them, and then strike when the time is right. Cyril's eyes narrowed. Negotiation? They have tasted freedom and courage. You think that can be contained? No. Only a demonstration of overwhelming power can restore order. Send the Obsidian Guard. Do not fail again. Even as he spoke, reports poured in of minor uprisings on worlds previously considered loyal. Humans had shown the galaxy another way: cooperation, courage, and defiance. And those ideas spread faster than any fleet could chase. Preparing for the next wave on the Resolute and across Task Force Horizon, humans trained relentlessly. Pilots practiced evasive maneuvers, soldiers studied alien tactics, and engineers perfected the new graviton weapons. Every victory, no matter how small, added to confidence. Every challenge taught a lesson. Captain Mercer reviewed the fleet's logs with Lieutenant Chen. The Vor will return, he said. But every move we make now strengthens allies, weakens them, and gives us the chance to strike where it matters most. Chen nodded. They think they are omnipotent. They do not understand humans. That is their greatest mistake. Mercer smiled faintly. And we intend to remind them of it. A galaxy awakens from the shadows of the Dominion to the colonies on the edge of human space. A single truth spread. The humans did not bow. They did not obey. They did not fear, and everywhere that truth reached, hope followed. Miners hid weapons beneath factory floors. Traders moved messages secretly. Scientists shared technology with allied species. Young pilots learned maneuvers from humans via long-distance training networks. The galaxy was waking to a new reality. One species, small in number but strong in unity and courage, had shown that even the greatest empire could be challenged. The Vor Dominion had sent their elite forces. They believed fear would be enough. They were beginning to learn that fear was no longer the galaxy's master. The Vor High Council had gathered every loyal fleet, every elite soldier, and every weapon of the Dominion. Their capital world, Vorketh, a planet of black stone and gleaming towers, was to become the stage of the final confrontation. Every holomap in the Dominion's archives pointed to the same truth. Humanity, once underestimated, had grown too strong to ignore. Admiral Lena Park and Captain Elias Mercer studied the approaching battlefield from the bridge of the Resolute. Countless stars stretched across the void, but among them hovered the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. Ships from Earth, Mars, Titan, and dozens of allied species formed a constellation of defiance, each vessel carrying pilots, soldiers, and engineers determined to see justice done. "This is it," Park said quietly. "Everything we've prepared leads here. Every plan, every alliance, every victory." Mercer's eyes scanned the tactical hologram. "The Vor will fight with desperation. They believe fear will turn the galaxy back to obedience. They do not understand courage," Park nodded. "Then let's show them." The first clash, the battle began at the edge of Vorketh's orbit. The Dominion unleashed wave after wave of obsidian guard ships, their black hulls like shadows sliding across starlight. Behind them, reinforcements carried the elite soldiers of the Empire, weapons glowing, engines roaring. Human frigates darted forward using quantum jump maneuvers to strike from unexpected angles. Graviton lances, tested and perfected over months of preparation, fired in unison, tearing through the Vor fleet's lead lines. Captain Mercer coordinated attacks with unmatched precision. "Target supply carriers first," he ordered. "Cut their ability to reinforce and resupply, then move on their command ships." Pilots from every colony followed, their voices calm and focused over the comms. "Strike Alpha ready. Lance corps aligned. Enemy formation weakening. Even the smallest victories mattered. A single carrier destroyed here, a cruiser disabled there, sent ripples of uncertainty through the Dominion's ranks. Ships that had never seen defeat began to hesitate. Courage across species. In the midst of the chaos, allied species showed their own bravery. Ternai submarines rose from the oceans of nearby moons, firing pulse cannons into orbital installations. Roveth and his Caraxes fighters ambushed patrol fleets from hidden tunnels, launching attacks that disrupted the Dominion's command lines. The humans did not fight alone. Every species had learned from the humans' courage, and now their cooperation formed a living shield and spear, moving in unison across the void. The Dominion's centuries-old strategy of dividing their subjects and ruling through fear began to crumble. Unity, not fear, now drove the resistance, turning the tide hours past as the battle raged. Vorketh itself shook from orbital strikes. Energy beams cut across the black sky, explosions lighting the void like distant suns. The Vor High Council, observing from their citadel, realized that conventional tactics would not win this war. Prime strategist Zyril gritted his teeth. "We have underestimated them. Our fleets are strong, but they fight with cohesion, with conviction. The humans have inspired hope across the galaxy. This cannot continue." A younger counselor whispered, "We may lose. If they breach the capital," Zyrel's eyes burned, "then we may have lost everything. Prepare for a final defense. All forces converge on the city center." But even as the last loyalist fleets moved to defend the capital, humanity and its allies pressed forward. Coordinated jumps allowed them to appear where the Dominion least expected. Supply ships were cut off, defensive satellites destroyed, and communication lines severed. The once mighty Empire was beginning to falter. The heart of the Empire, Captain Mercer, led a strike team aboard the Argent Dawn, now equipped with reinforced shields and assault modules. Their target, the central command tower of Vorketh. If it fell, the Empire would have no choice but to surrender. Inside the tower, Zyrel and the remaining counselors watched holographic projections of human ships advancing. "They are everywhere," Zyrel hissed. "Impossible. Our defenses cannot hold." Mercer's voice came through comm channels near the tower. "This is humanity. We do not seek to destroy your people. We offer a choice. Surrender, and the galaxy may remember your empire as it truly was. Not a rule of fear, but a lesson in humility. Resist, and countless worlds will be lost." Silence followed. Zyrel's crew hesitated. Fear, once their weapon, now worked against them. They had seen their fleet crumble. They had seen planets rise in rebellion. And now, a single species, united with allies, stood at their doorstep. The decision hours later, Zyrel addressed the council. "We surrender. Humanity has proven strength beyond expectation. Our empire is no longer sustainable. Let us hope our people survive what comes next. A ripple of shock passed through the Dominion. Across the battlefield, human ships hesitated, waiting for confirmation. Then Admiral Park spoke. Hold fire! Surrender accepted. Secure the council and begin immediate ceasefire protocols. Human pilots cheered quietly, careful not to endanger remaining civilians. On every liberated planet, news spread that the longest ruling empire in history had been humbled, not through conquest but through courage, unity, and the refusal to bow. Rebuilding the galaxy, the following weeks were filled with negotiation, restoration, and cooperation. Humanity proposed the Galactic Charter, guaranteeing free trade, self-rule, and mutual protection for all species. Former Vor worlds joined eagerly, glad to cast off centuries of fear. On Aurora Prime, citizens celebrated the liberation of countless planets and the end of an empire that had once seemed invincible. Engineers repaired infrastructure, farmers planted new crops, and children studied maps showing a galaxy of free worlds. Captain Mercer and Admiral Park observed from the Resolute, their eyes reflecting starlight. We have done more than win a war, Park said softly. We have shown that courage, unity, and hope can topple even the greatest powers. Mercer nodded, and the galaxy remembers it. The memory of the Vor Dominion is no longer one of fear. It is one of what happens when an empire underestimates the strength of a species united by courage. Legacy of courage in secret tunnels on Caraxus. Roveth smiled as he watched transmissions from liberated worlds. We fought because they inspired us. Humanity has shown the galaxy that oppression can be overcome. On Lithora, Ternai elders nodded at the young warriors returning from orbital patrols. The humans did not rule us. They taught us courage and cooperation. Even former members of the Vor military began to reconsider their beliefs. Many pledged loyalty to the new interstellar alliance, eager to learn from those they had once feared. Across every world, one truth became clear. The galaxy would never again be ruled by fear alone. Humanity, though young among the stars, had proven that courage, cooperation, and intelligence could reshape the destiny of countless civilizations. A new dawn from orbit above Earth. The first human fleet returned from the front lines. The sun rose over familiar cities, shining on proud faces. The Terran Council stood together with ambassadors from dozens of species, all witnessing the dawn of a new era. Captain Mercer looked out at the rising sun. The galaxy is waking, he said. We have faced the impossible and prevailed. But our work is not done. We must protect this new hope, nurture it, and ensure that fear never rules again. Admiral Park placed a hand on his shoulder. And we will. Humanity will not falter. The galaxy has seen our courage and it has responded. As the first ships of the Alliance lifted off to patrol liberated systems, the memory of the Vor Dominion faded. Once a name whispered in fear, it now became a lesson. Empires built on fear cannot endure against species that refuse to bow. The stars themselves seemed brighter, as if witnessing the triumph of a species that had dared to stand, to fight, and to inspire the galaxy. Humanity had not only survived, they had changed the universe. And a new dawn, full of possibility, hope, and freedom, had begun.